The night sky of planet Varethia was never silent before. The twin moons always shone bright, and the palace of the alien queen glimmered like a jewel in the dark. But tonight, everything was different. Smoke rose from the burning city, and the sound of explosions echoed through the crystal towers. Inside the grand palace, Queen Seraphina stood near the throne, her golden armor reflecting the flickering flames outside. Her guards ran through the corridors, shouting commands, panic in their voices. The invaders had broken through the city walls faster than anyone expected. No one knew who they were or where they came from, only that their ships fell from the sky like fire. "Your Majesty, we must retreat," shouted one of the generals, his voice shaking. "The enemy has reached the outer gates. We cannot hold them." Queen Seraphina's eyes were sharp, but her heart pounded with fear. She had led armies, commanded thousands, but tonight her people were dying. Her lips trembled as she asked, "And the civilians? Have they been evacuated?" The general hesitated. "We tried, my queen, but the enemy surrounded the transport zone. We lost contact." A heavy silence filled the hall. The queen's hands clenched on the throne. Then, before she could reply, a loud explosion shook the palace. The ceiling cracked. Dust and light poured down. Screams echoed in the distance. "Fall back! Protect the queen!" someone shouted. And just like that, the guards ran. They didn't look back. They didn't salute. Fear had swallowed their loyalty. Within minutes, the hall that once held hundreds of soldiers became empty. The queen was left alone, her heart breaking as footsteps faded away. Except for one man, Aaron, a human soldier. He stood at the base of the throne, his armor scorched and blood-stained, holding his plasma rifle tightly. He looked nothing like the shining alien warriors who fled. He looked tired, dusty, and bruised, but his eyes were calm. "My queen," he said quietly, "we need to seal the main gate. The enemy will be here soon." The queen stared at him. You stayed?" Aaron gave a small nod. "Until the end." For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the sound of gunfire grew louder. The queen took a deep breath, confusion filling her mind. Why would a human, a species that had arrived only years ago, stay behind when her own people had abandoned her? "Why?" she asked softly. "Why would you protect me? You owe me nothing." Aaron didn't answer immediately. He turned toward the massive door, pressing his shoulder against it, pushing with all his strength to close it. "Because," he said finally between breaths, "I made a promise." The queen frowned. "To whom?" "To my commander," Aaron replied. "He believed peace between our worlds was worth dying for. He died protecting you once. I'm just finishing what he started." Her lips parted slightly. She remembered that battle. A human commander had saved her life 2 years ago during a failed assassination attempt. She had never known his name until now. Before she could say another word, the doors rattled violently. A deep metallic bang echoed through the hall. "They're here," Aaron said, stepping back and raising his weapon. Through the cracks, red light flashed. The invaders were using plasma cutters to melt through the steel gates. The queen's heartbeat grew faster. "You can't stop them alone," she whispered. "We should run." Aaron shook his head. "Running means they'll chase. You need time to escape through the lower tunnels. I'll hold them." The queen's voice broke. "They'll kill you." Aaron smiled faintly. "Then I'll make sure they earn it." The gates exploded open. Blinding light filled the hall. Dark armored figures stormed inside, their weapons glowing red. The queen froze, her crown catching the firelight. Aaron moved without hesitation. He fired again and again, his rifle blazing. The sound was deafening. Each shot lit up the golden hall, like a storm of stars. The first wave of invaders fell, but more came behind them. Aaron dug behind a fallen statue, reloading quickly. Plasma bolts scorched the floor around him. He was bleeding, his armor cracked, but his eyes never left the queen. "Go!" he shouted. "Now!" But she didn't move. She stood frozen, watching this human fight with the fury of 100 soldiers. He didn't fight for glory. He fought because of a promise. For her. One of the invaders shouted something in a language she didn't understand. A heavy plasma grenade rolled toward the throne. Aaron saw it first. He sprinted forward, diving in front of the Queen, grabbing the grenade, and throwing it back just in time. The explosion sent both of them crashing to the floor. Smoke filled the air. The Queen coughed, pushing herself up. Aaron was beside her, his breathing heavy. "We can't stay here," he said hoarsely. "There's a secret passage behind the throne. Go, I'll cover you." She wanted to argue, but his eyes stopped her. They were full of determination, and something else she hadn't seen in anyone that night. Faith. The Queen pressed her hand over her chest and nodded slowly. "Very well, soldier, but this isn't over." Aaron smiled slightly, lifting his rifle again. "No, my Queen, it's just beginning." The smoke cleared and the enemy advanced again. The humans stood tall between the alien Queen and death itself. Outside, the city burned brighter. Inside, a legend began. Smoke drifted through the broken windows of the grand hall. The golden walls of the palace, once glowing with life, were now cracked and blackened by fire. The sound of battle outside had grown distant, replaced by the slow creaking of burning structures collapsing in the city below. Inside, Aaron stood silently beside the throne, scanning the shattered entrance with his rifle ready. The invaders had retreated for now, regrouping beyond the palace courtyard. The short pause felt heavy, like the quiet breath before another storm. The alien Queen, Seraphina, sat weakly against the marble steps, holding her side where a sharp piece of debris had grazed her. Even in pain, she carried herself like royalty, chin high, eyes sharp. Aaron turned toward her. "You need to move, my Queen. The next attack will come soon." She looked up at him, confusion mixing with pride. "You speak as if you command me, human." Aaron gave a faint smile, one corner of his mouth lifting. "I speak like someone who doesn't want to die today." Seraphina stared at him for a moment, this strange human who refused to leave her side. Her guards had fled, her generals had vanished, yet this one soldier, not even of her race, stood ready to die for her. "Why did you not run?" she finally asked, her voice softer now. Aaron adjusted the power cell in his rifle. Running never saved anyone. My commander used to say, "If you run from fear, it will follow you forever." "Your commander?" she asked. "The one who saved me years ago?" He nodded. "Commander Rhodes. He believed peace between humans and your kind was possible. He died believing that." The Queen's expression changed. There was pain in her golden eyes, a pain Aaron didn't expect to see. "Then his death was not forgotten," she said quietly. Aaron didn't answer. He was listening. The faint hum of approaching engines echoed in the distance. Dropships. The enemy was landing closer. He helped the Queen to her feet. "We'll take the lower tunnels. They lead to the cliffside. You can escape through there." She hesitated. "And you?" "I'll make sure we're not followed." She frowned. "You speak as if your life means nothing." Aaron looked at her calmly. "It means something, just not more than my word." For a moment, the Queen said nothing. Then she nodded slowly. "Very well. Lead the way." They moved through the dark corridors behind the throne. The tunnels were old, built long before the palace itself. Narrow stone paths lined with glowing blue crystals that flickered weakly. Every sound echoed like a whisper in a graveyard. Seraphina held her side, her steps unsteady. Aaron slowed his pace to support her. "You're wounded," he said. "It's nothing," she replied, though her voice trembled. "Varithian blood heals fast." Aaron glanced at her arm. Her veins glowed faintly under the skin, a strange light pulsing with each heartbeat. He had never seen anything like it. "You really are different," he said. She gave a faint smile. Different is not always better. For a brief moment, the silence between them felt almost peaceful. Two enemies turned allies, walking together in the ruins of a dying world. But peace never lasts long in war. A sudden blast shook the tunnel, sending dust and debris raining down. The light crystals shattered, plunging them into near darkness. "They found us," Aaron shouted. Before the Queen could respond, a beam of red light cut to the darkness, a plasma bolt barely missing her head. She gasped and stumbled back. Aaron fired in the direction of the shot. The rifle's blue glow lighting up the tunnel. 3 shadowed figures appeared. Enemy scouts. Aaron took cover behind a fallen stone pillar, firing shot after shot. The narrow tunnel echoed with chaos. One invader lunged forward with a blade of pure energy. Aaron blocked it with his rifle, sparks flying, and kicked the enemy back. Another shot. The figure dropped lifelessly. When the last enemy fell, silence returned, broken only by the Queen's heavy breathing. Aaron turned to her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No, but they know we're here." He nodded grimly. "Then we keep moving." They reached a hidden chamber at the end of the tunnel, an old storage room filled with ancient relics and broken weapons. The air smelled of dust and metal. The Queen looked around, sadness washing over her face. "This palace, it was built by my ancestors, a symbol of unity, and now it burns." Aaron leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Sometimes things have to burn before they can rise again. She looked at him curiously. "Is that a human saying?" He smiled faintly. "Something like that." Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed from the other side of the door. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. Aaron raised his rifle. The Queen stepped back. Then a familiar voice spoke through the steel. "My Queen," said a cold, deep voice, "you cannot run from destiny." The Queen's face went pale. "No, it can't be." "Who is it?" Aaron asked quietly. Her eyes hardened. "My general, the one who led the city's defense." Aaron frowned. "The one who ran?" "No," she whispered. "The one who betrayed me." The door creaked as someone began cutting through it. Sparks flew. The Queen's breathing grew heavy. Aaron took a deep breath and readied his weapon. "Then we fight." But she placed a hand on his arm. "No, not yet. Let me speak to him first." Aaron stared at her. "If you're wrong, we both die." Her golden eyes glimmered in the dim light. "Then we die with honor, not fear." The door burst open, and the shadow of betrayal stepped inside. The Queen stood tall, even in the darkness, her crown shining faintly. The human raised his weapon beside her. 2 souls, from 2 worlds, ready to face whatever came next. The steel door cracked open with a hiss of burning metal. Red light spilled into the tunnel chamber as General Kara stepped inside. His armor was black and polished, marked with the royal crest that once meant loyalty. Now it looked like a scar. Queen Seraphina froze. The man before her had once sworn to protect her throne. He had eaten at her table, led her armies, and vowed his life to her crown. Seeing him among the enemy's soldiers felt like a blade through her heart. "Kareth," she whispered, disbelief trembling in her voice. "Why?" The general's expression was calm, almost cold. "Because you were too weak to save this world," he said. "You trusted outsiders, humans, instead of your own." His gaze shifted toward Aaron, the human soldier standing beside her. "And now, because of him, your kingdom burns." Aaron raised his rifle slightly, ready to shoot. The Queen lifted her hand, stopping him. "This is not the way," she said. Kara smiled bitterly. "The way?" "The way ended when the humans arrived. They brought their wars, their greed, their false promises of peace." His voice hardened. "They destroyed everything." Aaron stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "You're blaming the wrong man. I didn't start this war." Kareth turned toward him slowly. "Then you will end it with your blood." Without another word, he raised his weapon and fired. The bolt of crimson energy shot across the room. Aaron ducked, the beam grazing his shoulder. The Queen screamed his name, the echo ringing through the tunnels. Aaron rolled behind a stone column, returning fire. The small chamber filled with smoke and flashing light. Karetha's soldiers stormed in, their boots pounding against the floor. The Queen ran to an old control panel, pressing her glowing fingers against the surface. A hidden door began to slide open at the far end. "This way," she shouted. Aaron covered her, firing bursts of plasma that lit the darkness blue. 2 enemies fell, but there were too many. Sparks rained from the ceiling as the chamber trembled. "Go," he yelled. But she didn't go. She grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the secret tunnel. "Not without you." For a moment, He met her eyes, bright, fierce, alive. Then he nodded. Together they ran through the narrow passage as the door behind them sealed shut with a heavy clang. The tunnel opened into a lower hall, a long corridor filled with broken statues and faded banners. It smelled of dust and smoke. Through the cracks above, they could see the burning city of Arethia. Towers collapsing, ships falling from the sky like dying stars. Seraphina stopped for a moment, her breath catching. "My city," she whispered. "My people are gone." Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice steady. "Then we keep moving. You're not done yet." She turned her head slightly. "Why do you still call me your majesty when I have no throne left?" He gave a faint smile. "Because you still act like a queen." Her eyes softened, but before she could answer, a sudden rumble shook the floor. The walls cracked. They're collapsing the tunnels. Aaron shouted, "Move!" They ran as the ceiling began to fall behind them. Dust filled the air. Stones crashed down like thunder. The queen stumbled, her wounded leg giving way. Aaron caught her before she fell. He lifted her into his arms, ignoring his own pain, and sprinted through the falling debris. When they finally burst out into open air, the night sky of Arethia was red with fire. The once beautiful capital lay in ruins. Ships burned in the atmosphere. The palace, high above, was breaking apart, piece by piece, falling into the valley below. Seraphina looked up, her eyes wide with horror. "It's over," she said softly. "Varethia has fallen." Aaron set her down gently against a rock and looked around. "Not yet. As long as you live, your people have hope." She shook her head. "Hope cannot rebuild a world." He knelt beside her, his voice calm. "Then let's start with survival." They didn't notice the small drone hovering above them, a dark metallic sphere blinking silently. It transmitted their location back to Karatha's ship, far above the burning city. Karath watched the signal appear on his screen. "So the queen runs with her human pet," he muttered. "End this. Bring her to me alive. Kill the human." Down on the surface, Aaron had found a path leading through the ruins toward a mountain ridge. The queen followed closely, limping slightly. As they moved, she spoke softly. "You could have left me behind. You could have escaped on one of your ships." Aaron kept walking. "And let you die alone? No chance." "Humans," she said, almost to herself, "always running toward danger." He glanced at her. "And yet you're still walking beside one." That made her smile, the first smile since the night began. But it faded quickly as a beam of red light shot past them, striking the ground. The explosion threw both of them backward. Dozens of enemy soldiers appeared on the ridge, their armor glowing in the firelight. They surrounded them in seconds. Aaron pulled the queen behind a fallen pillar, firing at the closest attackers. He hit 2, but more came. "There's too many," the queen shouted. "I know," Aaron said, teeth gritted. He reached for another power cell, but his rifle was nearly empty. The queen closed her eyes, touching a small crystal pendant around her neck. It began to glow. "This will draw power from the core," she whispered. Aaron looked at her. "What core?" "The heart of this planet," she said. "If I use it, it might save us or destroy us both." Aaron hesitated. "Do it." The queen pressed the crystal to the ground. A bright blue light surged outward, spreading like a wave. The earth shook violently. The enemy soldiers screamed as their weapons short-circuited. When the light faded, silence returned. Aaron blinked, his vision blurred. The queen was still kneeling, the crystal dim in her hand. He stepped forward carefully. "Are you all right?" She nodded weakly. "For now. But they will come again. This is only the beginning." Aaron looked out over the burning valley. "Then we keep fighting." She raised her eyes to his, tired, but shining with something new. "Together?" He gave a short nod. "Together." Above them, the palace collapsed completely, falling into dust and flame. The fall of Arethia had begun, but its story and theirs was far from over. The wind screamed across the ruins of Arethia. The flames from the fallen palace still burned bright behind the mountains, painting the night sky red. Aaron and Queen Seraphina moved through the broken valley, both tired, both covered in dust and ash. Every step echoed with the memory of the city that had fallen. Aaron stopped beside a large stone archway. "We rest here," he said quietly. Seraphina shook her head. "They are hunting us. We cannot stop." "We can't run forever," he replied. "You're bleeding again." She looked down. The wound on her leg had reopened. Blue-silver blood glowed faintly through the torn fabric of her armor. She tried to stand tall, but her knees trembled. Aaron knelt, pulling a small medkit from his belt. "Hold still." "You dare touch a queen?" she said, a hint of pride still in her voice. He smiled faintly. "Right now, I'm not seeing a queen. I'm seeing someone who needs to stay alive." She sighed but didn't stop him. His hands were steady as he cleaned and wrapped the wound. The warmth of his touch startled her. No alien, no servant, had ever treated her with such simple care. When he finished, he looked into her eyes. "Better? Better," she said softly. "For now." A silence followed. The only sound was the distant thunder of falling debris. Then Seraphina spoke again. "Tell me, human, why do you fight for a world that is not yours?" Aaron looked toward the horizon. "Because I've seen too many worlds fall. Maybe saving one will make a difference." Before she could answer, a sharp metallic sound broke the calm, the hum of approaching ships. Aaron's head snapped up. Red lights glowed between the ruined towers. "They found us," he whispered. He grabbed his rifle and moved toward the open ground. Seraphina reached for her pendant, ready to use her power again, but Aaron stopped her. "No, you're too weak. Let me handle this." The queen frowned. "You can't face them alone." He gave a small, tired grin. "I don't plan to win. I just plan to buy you time." She stared at him, unable to speak. Something inside her chest twisted, a feeling she hadn't known for centuries. Fear not for herself, but for him. The first enemy dropship landed nearby, throwing dust into the air. Dozens of armored soldiers stepped out, their weapons glowing red in the smoke. Their commander, General Kareth, walked in front, his black armor reflecting the firelight. "Enough running, my queen," he called out. "End this. Surrender, and I may let you live." Aaron stepped forward from behind the rocks. "You'll have to get through me first." Kareth laughed. "A single human against my army? Foolish." Aaron raised his rifle, eyes steady. "Maybe, but I only need to hold you long enough." Without waiting, he fired. The shot struck the nearest soldier, dropping him instantly. The others scattered, returning fire. Red and blue bolts lit up the ruins like lightning. Aaron moved fast, ducking behind broken walls, firing with deadly accuracy. Each time he shot, another enemy fell. But there were too many. Plasma bolts tore through the air, exploding around him. Shards of stone cut his face, but he didn't stop. The queen watched in the shadows, her heart pounding. Every flash of light showed him standing tall, unbroken. One soldier got close enough to attack with a blade. Aaron blocked it, twisted, and used the same weapon against him. He fought like a man who had already accepted his fate. Kara stepped closer, fury in his voice. "You're wasting your life, human." Aaron reloaded, breathing hard. "It's my life to waste." A blast hit his side, throwing him to the ground. His rifle skidded away. Kara smiled coldly and raised his weapon for the final shot. Before he could fire, a wave of blue light burst through the smoke. Seraphina stepped out, her crown glowing, eyes burning like fire. "Enough!" she shouted. The energy from her pendant spread through the ground, striking the soldiers. Their weapons overloaded, sparks flying. The air trembled. Kareth shielded his face from the blinding light. Aaron struggled to his feet, his body aching. "I told you to run," he said. The queen looked at him, her voice trembling but firm. "And leave you to die? I am a queen, not a coward." She lifted her hands, summoning another wave of power. It shot upward like a pillar of light, striking one of the dropships. The explosion lit the night sky. Kareth roared in rage, charging toward her. Aaron moved before thinking. He tackled the general, both crashing into the dirt. The two men fought hand to hand, blades clashing, armor scraping. Kareth was stronger, heavier, but Aaron fought with pure will. He landed a blow to the general's jaw, then another to his chest. Kareth grabbed Aaron's throat, slamming him against a rock. "You think your courage means anything?" he growled. Aaron gasped for air, forcing the words out. "It means everything." He pulled a plasma grenade from his belt, pressing it against Kareth's armor. "Goodbye." Kareth's eyes widened. Aaron kicked him back and dove away. The grenade exploded, throwing both men across the field. When the dust cleared, Kareth lay motionless. Seraphina ran Aaron's side. His armor was shattered, smoke rising from the metal. "Aaron, stay with me." He coughed weakly. "Told you. I don't run." Tears filled her eyes, real tears, glowing faintly in the blue light. She placed her hand on his chest, using her power to heal him. The energy flowed from her into him, her strength fading with each second. Aaron's breathing steadied. He opened his eyes, seeing her face close to his. "You're wasting your power." "Be quiet," she whispered. "A queen gives life to those who protect it." When she finished, she collapsed beside him, exhausted. He caught her before she hit the ground. The night was silent again. The flames still burned far away. But for the first time since the invasion began, hope flickered in the darkness. Aaron looked at her, his voice soft. "We're not done yet." She smiled faintly. "Then we rise together." Above them, the sky cracked with thunder as enemy ships retreated into clouds. The first victory of the fallen queen and the last stand of the human who refused to flee had begun. The morning light on Varithia was dull and gray, like the ashes of forgotten fire. The wind whispered through the ruins, carrying the faint smell of smoke and metal. Aaron and Queen Seraphina moved carefully along a narrow ridge, their boots crunching softly on the shattered stones. Every sound seemed louder in the silence. The scrape of metal, the hum of a dying world. Aaron scanned the horizon with his visor, his rifle clutched close. "We're heading straight toward the palace ruins," he said. "If your map is right, the core chamber should be below the main throne room." Seraphina nodded, her golden eyes glowing faintly under her hood. "Yes, but that area will be crawling with Kareth's scouts. They won't let us reach the core easily." Aaron smirked. "They'll try." Despite his humor, exhaustion clung to every step he took. His injuries hadn't healed fully. Every breath still hurt. But he didn't stop. Not once. The queen noticed, of course. She always did. Her gaze lingered on him for a moment before turning back to the path ahead. "You risk too much, human," she said softly. "Your body is breaking, and yet you walk as if pain doesn't exist." He glanced at her with a faint smile. "Pain means I'm still alive." Her expression softened. "And if you stop feeling it?" Aaron's smile faded. "Then I'll know I'm dead." Hours passed. They crossed silent valleys and burned out villages. Once, they found a child's toy half buried in the ash, a small glass sphere that played a faint melody when Seraphina touched it. She held it for a moment, her fingers trembling, then placed it gently on a stone. "Every piece of this world has a memory," she whispered. Aaron looked at her quietly. "Then we'll make sure it remembers something worth keeping." By midday, they reached what was left of the royal palace. It was no longer a palace, only bones of stone and twisted steel. The air shimmered with heat from the still burning ruins. Aaron crouched behind a fallen pillar, scanning the area. 2 sentry drones, 1 patrol to the east, he muttered. "If we move fast, we can slip through before they cycle back." Seraphina's pendant glowed softly, projecting a faint light toward the shattered throne hall. "The entrance is below that archway." Aaron nodded. "Then let's go." They moved like shadows, silent, careful, one breath at a time. But just as they crossed the open ground, a sudden whir filled the air. The red lights of the drones turned toward them. Aaron cursed under his breath. "We're spotted." The air filled with energy bolts. Aaron grabbed the queen's arm and pulled her behind a wall as explosions rocked the ruins. He fired back, each shot bright and precise, but the enemy was closing in. "Run!" he shouted. "Get to the core chamber." But Seraphina didn't move. Her hand rose, and a burst of golden light exploded from her pendant. The ground trembled. The drones froze midair, their circuits sparking before crashing down like metal rain. Aaron blinked. Remind me never to make you angry. The Queen was breathing hard, her glow fading fast. The pendant draws from my life force, she said. Each use drains me. Aaron frowned. Then don't use it again. We'll fight through the rest the old-fashioned way. But she didn't reply. She just looked at him, really looked, as if trying to memorize his face. They reached the lower tunnels. The air was colder there, filled with a hum of ancient machines buried deep beneath the palace. The path twisted downward, and at the end of it, a vast metal door waited. The core chamber, Serafina whispered. Aaron placed his palm on the scanner beside it. Sparks flickered. It's damaged, but maybe. He twisted a few wires, muttered something under his breath, and finally, with a groan of metal, the door began to open. Inside, the core chamber glowed like the heart of a star. A giant crystal floated in the center, pulsating weakly with blue light, the last breath of a dying planet. Serafina stepped forward slowly, her face glowing in the reflection. It still lives, she whispered. I can restore it. Aaron stared at her. How? She turned to him, her voice calm but heavy. By giving it what it needs. Energy, life, a soul strong enough to balance its power again. He froze. You mean yours? She didn't answer, but her silence said everything. Aaron stepped closer. No, we'll find another way. There is no other way, she said quietly. Varithia is dying. Without the core, the planet will collapse, and everyone who still breathes will die with it. He shook his head. And what about you? What about... She placed a hand on his chest, stopping him. I am Varithia, Aaron. My life was never mine to keep. It was meant to protect my people. His voice broke. I didn't fight all this way to lose you now. Her eyes softened. You didn't lose me. You saved me from my own fear. Tears burned behind his eyes, but he said nothing. He just stood there, unable to move as she stepped toward the core. The light around her began to grow. Her hair lifted like golden fire, her pendant floating from her hand into the air. The core's light pulsed brighter with every beat of her heart. Aaron reached out. Serafina, stop. She smiled, a gentle, heartbreaking smile. You once told me that hope is the only weapon we have. Let me prove you right. And then she placed her hands on the core. A blinding surge of energy filled the chamber. The ground shook. Light exploded in every direction. Aaron was thrown back against the wall, shielding his eyes. Serafina, he shouted. The light consumed everything. When the explosion faded, the core shone brighter than ever, alive, pure, stable. The planet had been reborn, but the Queen was gone. Only her pendant lay where she had stood, glowing faintly in the quiet air. Aaron crawled toward it, trembling, his heart breaking. He picked it up, holding it close. The crystal pulsed once, warm, like a heartbeat. He whispered, You kept your promise, my queen. Then, as the wind carried the first golden light of dawn to the broken chamber, Aaron stood, the pendant hanging around his neck. He wasn't alone. Not anymore. Because some lights never truly die. They just live on inside the ones who remember. The sun never rose over Varithia again. Ash and smoke covered the sky like a thick gray blanket. The fires had dimmed, but the land still glowed faintly red. A world wounded, breathing in pain. In the middle of the ruins, a small cave opened under a fallen ridge. Inside, Aaron lay on the cold ground, half awake, his body wrapped in pieces of torn cloth and bandages. His armor was broken. One side of his chest burned black, where the explosion had thrown him. Beside him, Queen Serafina sat silently. Her crown lay on the floor, cracked in two. The glow from her pendant flickered weakly, its light no stronger than a candle. For hours she hadn't moved, her golden eyes fixed on the human who had nearly died for her. Finally, Aaron's voice broke the silence, rough, quiet, but alive. Where are we? Serafina turned quickly, relief flooding her face. You're awake. Aaron tried to sit up, but pain struck through his ribs. Guess that means we survived. She nodded slowly. Barely. He looked around at the rough stone walls. How long was I out? Almost 2 cycles, she said. A day and a half in your time. Aaron leaned back, breathing carefully. You could have left me. The Queen frowned. And go where? There's nowhere left to run. He smiled faintly. Still, most people would have saved themselves first. Her gaze softened. You are not most people. Human. And perhaps neither am I. Outside, the wind howled to the ruined valley. The remains of the palace still burned in the distance. Aaron slowly reached for his canteen, took a sip, and handed it to her. Drink. You need it more than I do. She hesitated, royal pride fighting simple need, but then accepted it. Your kind always surprises me, she said quietly. How so? You destroy what you touch. And yet, you also say what no one else dares to. Aaron chuckled weakly. We're complicated creatures. The Queen gave a small smile. So I've noticed. For a moment, silence settled again, peaceful, fragile. Then Seraphina looked down at the pendant in her hand. The crystal was fading, losing color. She brushed it gently with her thumb. Aaron noticed. That thing had saved us, didn't it? Yes, she said. It holds a fragment of Arethia's core, the energy that gives life to this planet. But it's dying now, just like everything else. He frowned. Can it be restored? Perhaps, she said softly, if the core still exists. But it lies deep beneath the palace, and that place is lost. Aaron thought for a moment. Then we find another way. She looked at him curiously. You always speak as if hope is a weapon. He smiled. Sometimes. It's the only one we have. Later that night, Aaron drifted in and out of sleep. His mind replayed the battle. Caratha's voice, the explosion, the Queen's light surrounding him. He opened his eyes and found her still awake, sitting by the cave's entrance, staring at the dark horizon. You should rest, he said. I cannot, she replied. Every time I close my eyes, I see my city burn again. Aaron pushed himself up slowly. I know that feeling. Lost my world once too. She turned to him, surprised. You? He nodded. Before I joined the Alliance, my home colony was attacked. I was the only one left alive. My commander found me, gave me a purpose. That's how I became a soldier. Seraphina listened quietly. So that is why you never run. Aaron gave a small laugh. Maybe, or maybe I'm just too stubborn. Her expression softened. It is a rare kind of courage and a dangerous one. He tilted his head. Dangerous? Because it makes others care, she said softly. And caring makes loss hurt more. Their eyes met for a long moment. Neither spoke. The faint blue light from the pendant danced across their faces. For the first time since the war began, the Queen felt something she thought she had buried long ago. Trust. Suddenly, a faint beep echoed through the cave. Aaron's instinct sharpened. He grabbed his rifle, though it was barely functional. What was that? Seraphina held her pendant close. The sound came from it. The crystal pulsed once, then projected a small holographic image in the air. A map. Aaron's eyes widened. That's the palace tunnels. The core chamber, Seraphina whispered. It's still active. Before either could react further, another sound came, a distant mechanical hum. Outside the cave, small drones flew past, scanning the area with red lights. They're searching for us, Aaron said. Caratha's soldiers must have regrouped. The Queen's face hardened. Then we move at dawn. We cannot let them find the core before we do. Aaron nodded. Can you travel? I will, she said simply. He smiled faintly. That's the spirit. When the first gray light of dawn touched the sky, they prepared to leave. Aaron adjusted his broken armor, loading the few remaining power cells into his rifle. The Queen wrapped her cloak around her shoulders, hiding the faint glow of the pendant. As they stepped out of the cave, the world looked cold and silent, the ruins stretching endlessly under the smoky sky. Aaron looked at her. You know, most people would call this madness. Perhaps, she said, but sometimes madness is all that's left when hope is gone. He gave a soft chuckle. Then it's a good thing I'm crazy, too. She smiled, a real, tired smile. Yes, human. It is. Together they walked into the mist, leaving behind a cave that had sheltered both their bodies and their fears. Behind them, unseen in the fog, a small black drone hovered silently. Its red light blinked once, sending a signal to the sky. Far above, in the orbiting warship, General Karatha's voice rumbled through the control room. "Found you," he said coldly. "Enjoy your peace while it lasts." The line between life and death had grown thin, and both the Queen and her human protector were about to cross it once again. The sky above Varithia changed. For the first time in weeks, the thick gray clouds began to break apart, letting faint golden rays touch the wounded world. The air shimmered with new life. Rivers that had turned to ash started to flow again. The wind carried warmth instead of smoke. The core had awakened. But inside the silent ruins of the palace, one man knelt on the cold floor, holding a glowing pendant in his hands. Aaron. His armor was cracked, his face covered in dirt and blood, but his eyes burned with something new, a mix of grief and purpose. The pendant in his palm pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. It was all that remained of Queen Seraphina, her life, her light, her soul. He whispered her name once, his voice breaking. "Seraphina?" The core's blue glow reflected off his tears. For a long time, Aaron didn't move. The silence around him was too heavy to bear. Every sound reminded him of her voice, her calm strength, her final smile before she vanished into light. Then, faintly, a whisper echoed in his mind, not from the outside, but within. "Aaron, the core lives. So, do you—" He froze. "Seraphina?" There was no one there, only the pendant, glowing brighter for a brief second. Aaron took a shaky breath and closed his hand around it. "You're still here, aren't you?" The glow answered, soft, warm, alive. He stood slowly, his strength returning, not from his body, but from her presence. Hours later, he walked through the ruins. The once dead planet was breathing again, but life was fragile, barely beginning. The air shimmered with quiet light, and the ground beneath his feet hummed softly, as if the core's energy now followed his steps. He looked around at the destruction, then whispered to himself, "You saved them, Seraphina. Now it's my turn to keep them alive." But peace didn't last. Far above the planet, the black warship Obsidian Fong floated like a shadow. Inside, General Karath watched the reborn world through the window, his eyes burning with hatred. "So," he growled, "the Queen sacrificed herself." A soldier bowed behind him. "Yes, sir. Our sensors show the core has stabilized. The planet is regenerating." Karath clenched his fist. "Then that human has done what I could not. He's become their savior. We'll see how long that lasts." He turned toward the bridge. "Prepare the assault pods. I want him alive. The Queen's energy flows through him now. And if I can't have her," he smiled coldly, "I'll take what's left." Night returned to the surface. Aaron camped near a ridge overlooking the glowing valleys below. He had built a small fire, his rifle resting beside him. The pendant hung from his neck, its light dancing with the flames. He spoke softly into quiet air. "You know, I never got to say thank you, or goodbye." A soft voice echoed faintly in his mind again, Seraphina's voice, calm and distant. "You do not need to say goodbye, Aaron. I'm part of you now." Aaron smiled weakly. "Then I guess I'll never be alone again." "Never," she whispered. The wind blew gently, carrying her words like music. Just as he began to drift toward sleep, a sharp sound cut through the stillness, the distant hum of engines. Aaron's eyes snapped open. He grabbed his rifle and looked to the sky. Dark figures descended from the clouds, sleek black dropships, their red lights cutting through the night. "Karath," he muttered, "you just don't give up." He crouched low, scanning the terrain. There was nowhere to run, no one to call for help. But he didn't need anyone. Not anymore. He touched the pendant on his chest. "Guess it's just you and me again." The pendant pulsed, stronger now, responding to his heartbeat. Aaron smiled. "Let's finish this." When the enemy ships landed, the ground trembled. Dozens of soldiers in dark armor poured out, their weapons glowing red. They surrounded the ridge, moving cautiously through the smoke and shadows. Caratha's voice boomed through a loudspeaker. Aaron of Earth, you carry the Queen's power. Surrender it, and I may let you live. Aaron stepped out from behind the rocks, calm and unshaken. His armor glinted faintly in the firelight. Funny, he said, she told me you never kept your promises. Caratha's tone turned cold. So you choose death? Aaron smirked. No, I choose her. He touched the pendant. A brilliant golden light erupted from it, the same light that once surrounded the Queen. It flowed through his veins, wrapping around like armor made of stars. His eyes glowed gold and blue at once, his voice echoing with power. You will not touch this world again. The soldiers opened fire. Beams of red light filled the air, but they never reached him. The energy around Aaron absorbed every shot. He moved like a storm, fast, unstoppable. His rifle fired in bursts of glowing light, each shot tearing through enemy ranks with divine precision. Carath watched from above, his fury growing. He's using the Queen's essence. That power is mine. He leaped from his ship, landing heavily on the ground, his own armor flaring with dark energy. The two faced each other under the burning sky. Light against darkness, human against monster. You think her light makes you a god? Carath growled. Aaron's voice was calm. No, it just reminds me what she died for. They clashed, explosions of light and shadow tearing through the battlefield. Each strike shook the ground. Sparks flew as their blades met. Caratha's strength was immense, but Aaron fought with something stronger than rage, purpose. When Carath finally overpowered him, pressing his blade at Aaron's throat, the human smiled to blood on his lips. You'll never win. Carath snarled. And why is that? Aaron's eyes glowed brighter. Because she's still here. A pulse of light exploded from the pendant, throwing Carath backward. The golden energy surged through Aaron, blasting outward like wings of fire. The ground cracked, the air shimmered, and Carath screamed as his armor shattered, his body disintegrating into the night. And then silence. Aaron fell to his knees, breathing hard. The golden light faded slowly, returning to the pendant. He looked up at the stars, whispering, "It's done." "Yes," Seraphina's voice answered gently. "And now it's time to live." Aaron smiled faintly, the light of the pendant flickering against his chest. "Then let's rebuild your world together." And as dawn rose once more, painting the sky in gold, the legend of the human who carried a queen's light began, a story whispered across galaxies about love, sacrifice, and the fire that never dies.